Grassland farm systems sustain rural communities all around the world. Key animal industries, red meat, fibre and dairy all rely predominantly on our grasslands. They also support a wide range of cultural practices of rural communities, ecosystems and developing economies. But how do we sustain this essential resource? More so, how do we improve our grassland systems to improve the livelihoods of the millions that rely on these grassland systems? In many parts of the world, we could possibly say revitalising these grassland systems. In May 2013, grassland researchers all over the world were asked to interview a progressive grassland farmer in their region. The clip you're about to see is a compilation of those interviews. The purpose of this activity was multiple. We wanted to showcase what progressive farmers are doing in different parts of the world. We also wanted to highlight challenges these different grassland systems face and how they plan to go forward in the future. Finally, we hope these videos stimulate discussion around the relevance of a Congress like this to our goal of improving grassland systems and therefore revitalising them. So let's meet our farmers. The Heinrich family operated dairy farm in East Frisian in northern Germany. The Heinrichs farm is 95 hectares with 65 hectares of grasslands. They have a herd of 100 cows that produce an average annual milk yield of 8,500 kilograms per cow. Milking is done in a carousel with 18 places for simultaneous milking. The forage production in the grasslands is highest in spring. Calving is usually timed to occur in autumn, with all livestock kept indoors during winter. The liquid manure is collected and stored in containers under the barn during winter and later spread over the grasslands.
Und wir kommen dann in eine Phase rein, da werden wir gar nicht so viel mehr Kühe halten. Dieser Stall ist konzipiert jetzt für 125 Kühe. Wir werden auch sicherlich nicht sehr viel höher hinausgehen wollen. Aber wir haben dann die Chance, dass wir mit der Intensität etwas zurückgehen können und die Flächenproduktivität und auch wahrscheinlich die Grundfutterleistung etwas nach oben fahren. Ich bin 60 Jahre alt heute. Nachfolger in der Familie ist nicht vorhanden. Aber ich glaube, mein Betrieb, der ist so aufgebaut, dass es durchaus Interessenten gibt, die dann sich um die Pacht für einen solchen Standort bewerben werden. Und nebenher bin ich noch ehrenamtlich tätig und habe den Vorsitz im regionalen Bauernverband, dem landwirtschaftlichen Hauptverantwortlichen.
To cattle of a different kind now in Canada. Dwayne and Paula Thompson own and operate a mixed farming and grazing enterprise 85 miles northeast of Regina, Canada. In over 3,000 hectares, Dwayne runs more than 1,000 head of beef cattle. The region experiences very long winters, with 2 to 3 feet of snow and between 300 and 400 millimetres of rain expected annually. Due to its scale, an extensive grazing system operates. Calving occurs between April and June, with weaning in November. The Thompsons rotate the cattle in big herds of up to 900 cattle on pastures for short intervals of 1 to 4 days. After harvest, crop stubbles are incorporated into the rotation. The Thompson family have a clear focus on building the farm resource for the next generation.
I never intend to sell this place. We're gonna live this business for as long as anybody wants to be on it. And if we're improving the resource, then our lifestyle is gonna be better and better.
The Paulinus family operates a dairy ewe farm in northwest Sardinia, Italy. The region is characterised by a Mediterranean climate with around 550 millimetres of winter-dominant rainfall. The farming land is hilly, with an altitude of around 350 to 400 metres above sea level. Typical land use in this region is small-scale dairy ewe farms, usually family-owned and operated. The Paulinus farm is 80 hectares, mostly as improved grasslands, but with a small area of irrigated crops. Their flock of 400 ewes produces around 100,000 litres of milk and 200 sow lambs annually.
Il carico attuale noi abbiamo 400 fattrici, diciamo così, 400 adulte mediamente su 80 ettari. Prima facevamo anche dei cereali, un po' di grano duro, adesso diciamo che è basato più sul pascolo e comunque siamo autonomi sulla produzione dei foraggi, del fieno, le uniche cose che compriamo sono le farine, insomma, le farine per l'alimentazione.
In the last decade, the Paulinus family have begun producing their own cheese, rather than selling their milk to a cooperative. To the US now, to Eagle Valley Ranch, where Mike Kostler and Jerry Elzinger manage a 600-cow enterprise on 6,000 acres in the high desert region of Idaho. Receiving on average 275 millimetres of rainfall annually, with snow in winter and very hot dry summers, this production system relies greatly on its 2,250 acres of irrigated land, fed from snowmelt. The property also has a range of soils and therefore also utilises a range of perennial cool season grasses and some annuals. The property is surrounded largely by public lands, which the farm uses to run dry cows over December.
On this cow-calf deal, it's about forage production and how many tons, and not necessarily the highest quality grass, which is a good thing. You know, if we were in a more intensive dairy situation, that might be a bad thing, but we're about producing forage, about producing stockpile, about producing some hay for the winter.
The Kentucky region of the US also experiences very hot summers and below freezing temperatures in winter, but with a lot more rainfall, averaging 1,250 millimetres annually. Todd Clark has been farming in this region for around 25 years. With his family, he manages a mixed cropping and grazing enterprise on 700 acres, comprising tobacco, beef, lamb, and poultry for both meat and eggs. Todd ensures a humane, natural existence for his livestock and markets his products locally where such attributes are more likely valued. A key feature of Todd's production system is his use of rotational grazing.
Our natural resource in Kentucky is our grass, especially in central Kentucky, the bluegrass region. And so we're trying to utilize what we have an abundance of and make the most of the opportunities that we have in front of us.
The Gansu province in China is characterised by a continental climate with an average of 130 millimetres of summer-dominant rainfall. The farming land is mountainous, with altitudes ranging from 1,300 metres to 5,500 metres above sea level. The Land family operates a typical family-owned sheep enterprise near Jiangyi City, Gansu province in northwestern China. Their farm is approximately 80 hectares in size, with distinct pasture areas for each season. Their flock of 270 sheep is used to produce fat lambs for sale. Ijaz Ahmed Watu has a 100-acre property growing a mixture of cash crops and fodder crops common to the Lahore region of Pakistan. Mr. Watu keeps cows for dairy and beef production, selling milk to a global food company.
This is Pak Afoi variety of fodder. I have planted 30 days ago, and that size of fodder in 30 days. 60 days old and ready to cut. And that's swan grass, 35 days old and ready to cut. I'm using a cut and carry system.
Like Mr. Watu, Shahid Nawaz also produces dairy on his mixed farm in the Okara district, 100 kilometres from Lahore. Mr. Nawaz has almost 4 times the acreage, but also produces maize for silage production, sorghum, and berseem clover for fresh fodder fed in the traditional cut and carry way. Cash crops include rice, potatoes, and cotton. On both farms, approximately a quarter of their income production comes from dairy. Mr. Nawaz's farm size enables him to use some newer technologies on his property, including sexed semen from the US and Australia.
Our farm is basically a typical farm, a mid-sized typical farm in Pakistan. The small farmers have different practices totally. But farms that are like over 200, 300 acres, they are all basically run on the same pattern in Pakistan. We are all semi-mechanized farming is done in Pakistan now.
The Passos region of Minas Gerais, Brazil, has very favourable conditions for pasture growth, with rainfall around 2 metres annually, dry winters and mild to warm summers. This provides an ideal environment for dairy production, an industry rapidly growing in the region. Santa Luzia Farm, owned and managed by Mauricio Severo Coelho, stocks between 500 and 600 dairy cows. Originally a cropping property, the farm now in its second generation gains approximately 40% of its income from dairy. The farm invests significantly in special skills, training and mechanisation to stay at the forefront of the Brazilian dairy industry.
Eu pretendo aqui na nossa propriedade, a partir de julho a agosto, quando chegarmos em 600 vacas, com os descartes voluntários.
Joe Santos on Triangular Farm, though much smaller, also makes a significant portion of his income from dairy. The Gersolando breed of cattle are brought up in a combination of the modern containment system and freestall irrigated pasture system containing the key species known as Mombasa.
Porque no verão o Mombasa fica muito alto, né? Aí até dispensa a silagem do coxo. Aí só coloca ração e caroço de algodão. Aí a silagem não entra mais.
When John and Robin Ive purchased their 250-hectare property in the southern tablelands near Canberra, Australia in 1980, it was not in a good state. But by gathering a lot of information about the farm through measurement over 34 years, strategic tree planting, improving soils and improving grazing management, the Ives have transformed the property into a productive, highly specialised, ultra-fine merino enterprise.
We started out with what was universally regarded as a very run-down farm. In fact, in the words of some people, it was a basket case. Badly affected by dry land salinity and soil acidity. Mismanaged, I suppose you could say. And that, to me, was the challenge. And I think we've managed to turn it around quite well these days. In areas that we're pushing to carry one dry sheep to the hectare, up till June 2012 on the back-to-back of quite good years, those areas under greatly improved management and that carried in excess of 35 DSEs per hectare, so it's quite a significant turnaround.
The Ives run a small number of beef cattle in front of their 650 merinos and also have areas dedicated to farm forestry. The pasture base is a mixture of native perennial grasses growing on the hill slopes and improved exotic species on the flats.
Robin said she thinks she'll be carrying me off the place in a box because I'm very committed and I'm passionate about it, and I think, well, certainly son and daughter are pretty keen about the place and that, so as long as I'm capable, I'll continue playing my part in it along with the assistance I get from them.
In Napokham village, Phin District, Savannakhet province of Lao PDR, Miss Stock operates a mixed farming enterprise. She also operates a rice mill and a shop in the village.
จำนวนคนก็มีลูก4 คน
มีลูก4 คนเนาะ
มีลูก4 คนแล้วก็อันผลิตนี่เฮ็ดนาเฮ็ดสวนเฮ็ดนาเฮ็ดสวนปลูกมันต้นนี่แหละเจ้าเลี้ยงสัตว์แล้วสัตว์ปลูกพังควายมี4 โตงัว10 โต
Ms. Dock established a range of improved tropical forages on half a hectare of her land and plans to extend this after the harvest of a cassava crop later in the year. This region has a tropical monsoonal climate receiving 1.5 metres of rainfall annually. There are difficulties in both the wet and dry seasons. In the wet season, the animals are supervised as they graze to prevent them causing damage to rice paddies. In the dry season, animals are usually free grazing, but there is very limited feed available and animals mostly graze on rice stubble. Ledek Simasek is a private farmer in North Bohemia in the Czech Republic, managing cattle on 365 hectares of owned and leased land. The region experiences a temperate climate of below zero and snow in winter, a strong flush in spring and temperatures of up to 30 degrees in summer. The region receives approximately 880 millimetres of rainfall annually. Mr. Simasek employs 3 people on his farm. He produces grain for supplementary feeding and mows his meadows up to 3 times annually. The farm is run organically and, due to agro-environmental schemes, is subject to a lot of restrictions, including the prohibition of synthetic fertilisers and rules around grazing. Consequently, Mr. Simasek uses both continuous and rotational grazing strategies for his pastures. Despite this, reasonable growth rates are achieved.
U těch malých telát, tam si myslím, že dosahujeme přírůstku, když děláme nějaké tyhleto vážení, tak tam u těch bíčků se to pohybuje od kila do kilo 20, pokud jsou pod matkou. U jaloviček je to taky nějak takto kilo 10 od těch, jo. A jinak potom v tom zimním období tam ten přírůstek není až takový, protože většinou ty zvířata jsou normálně na pastvě venku Takže ten přírůstek je tam něco u těch jalovic kolem 60 až 70 deka.
Finally in Sri Lanka, Mr. Narosh Sirivaratne manages a commercial bioenergy livestock integrated farm owned by the University of Peradeniya, 100 kilometres from Colombo. This tropical region receives on average 2.5 metres of rainfall annually. The farm employs 32 people amongst a range of livestock enterprises including dairy cattle and buffalo, goats, sheep, pigs, ducks, geese, rabbits and quail. Held up as a model for the region, the farm has 10 to 15 hectares of improved forages on what is mostly marginal tea land, the main production system being dairy.
We have actually 25 milking cattle. Also we have altogether 45 cattle, including calf, replacement stock and heifers. Our milk production is around 10 liters per cow per day, and also we have 20 calves per year. We practice intensive feeding system for cattle and semi-intensive system for buffalo units. And some buffaloes we are sending daytime to the field for the grazing, and they will send back afternoon, and we give some feeds for them at night.